Welcome to vintagesf with Richard Rempel. Today we're going to take a look at an art book titled Worlds Beyond Time, Sci-Fi Art of the 1970s by Adam Rowe. This will be a book tour. Here we see the end sheet and another inside end sheet. I'm not sure exactly what that would be called. Let's take a look here maybe. And another one, a third one. This one I believe is a Pennington picture. Pennington as the artist, Bruce Pennington. And here we can actually see there are credited the artists for the end papers. Indeed, the one that I did say was Bruce Pennington was from A.E. Van Vogt's The World of Null A. But we're here to just have a bit of a tour of the book, so I'm not going to get too detailed about each picture. But let's take a look at the contents here. It's arranged thematically, and let's take a look at the first one. For example, the abstract, surreal, and otherworldly. We'll see some original artists, and we'll also see some sub-themes within that main theme. So, the abstract, surreal, and otherworldly, we have Richard M. Powers, surrealist prankster. The unsettling art of Don Ivan Panchaz. Chess in sci-fi. Paul Kirchner's Dope Rider. Douglas Chaffee. The swift rise and swifter fall of Galileo magazine. Gary Vizkupek. And Gary Vizkupek's TV guide art. And finally, Leo and Diane Dillon, and the third artist. The other sections here as well are spaceships, vehicles and megastructures, sci-fi cities and landscapes, planets, explorers and space travel, life in the futures, plants, animals and alien life, fantasy realms, and cryptozoology and the paranormal. All right, let's take a look. As I said, here is the introduction. This is by artist Vincent de Fate. The abstract, surreal, and otherworldly. At the beginning of each section, we have an introduction and explanation about this category or this theme, and that comes from the author himself, Adam Rowe. You'll see a lot of covers here that I'm sure you've seen before. We see Childhood's End over here. That would be a Richard Powers cover. We have the covers listed on this side. Yes, that's 1953 Richard Powers. And surrealist Bob Pepper drew for Harlan Ellison's The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. Jack Gone. Some beautiful H.P. Lovecraft covers. Victor Valla is the artist. So here we focus on one artist, Richard M. Powers. Some might remember Don Ivan Panchaz for his covers for the Foundation trilogy. They sort of had a cubist feel to them. Chess in sci-fi, so here we see different covers featuring chess. Paul Kirchner's Dope Rider. So this book does look beyond science fiction cover art and at art within graphic novels and comic books. Douglas Chaffee. The swift rise and swifter fall of Galileo magazine. Gary Vizkupek. I don't know if I've seen any of these covers. Intriguing. And Gary Vizkupic did TV guide artwork. And here's some of the black and white artwork. A very interesting style. An artist team that I am very familiar with, although it was great to read the article about them, is Leo and Diane Dillon. Ace Science Fiction Specials, a series that I went through at the beginning of my channel, has approximately 40 covers commissioned by Leo and Diane Dillon, a married couple as an art team. It's hard to understand sometimes where each other's art starts or stops. It very much is a collaboration. This one here looks like many of the covers that you would find in the Ace Science Fiction Specials Series 1. This is for Barefoot in the Head by Brian Aldiss. And down here, you can also see Dangerous Visions. Harlan Ellison loved their art and was a proponent for their artwork being on his books. So that's a sample of one section. Let's just page through the book here so you can have an idea of some of the art that's covered here. I'll highlight a few artists as we go through. Spaceship vehicles and megastructures. Chris Foss, very famous artist, the biggest brand in retro sci-fi covers. Sid Mead, a visual futurist. You would see a lot of his designs for movies. Ringworld by Larry Niven attracted a lot of artists trying to depict this Ringworld. As did Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. This would be an interior world. Bob Eggleton. UFOs. This was a very influential cover for me on Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. The art is by Dean Ellis. John Berkey. Sort of an impressionist view, a lived-in view of structures in space and on planets. Concept of space elevators. John Harris's Meditations. Spaceships and planets. This could cover quite a few artists. Vincent DeFate, who offered the introduction to this book. I have a copy here of The Best of Philip K. Dick. An iconic cover for Andre Norton's Starborn by Dean Ellis, 1971. Sci-fi cities and landscapes. Canals on Mars. The trope born of a misunderstanding. A very famous painting for the Martian Chronicles by Michael Whalen here at the bottom. Underwater sci-fi. John Schoenherr's compositions. I don't think I've seen any of these covers, but they're spectacular. Skull Planets. Asimov's Foundation series. I was talking about Ivan Don Punchat's covers. Here they are right here, the Cubist style of design, Impressionism. This trio of covers here is from Michael Whalen in the 1980s. Dean Ellis, the ideal paperback artist. The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. Angus Mackay. Planets, Explorers, and Space Travel. David A. Hardy. Robert McCall. NASA's Space Colonies. Explorers of the Unknown. So here we see a magazine cover. It's interesting, the model in this magazine cover is Carol Imschwiller, modeling for her husband Ed, and she was an author of science fiction short stories. Jeffrey Catherine Jones. I have this copy of Bedlam Planet. It is a spectacular cover. Cryosleep, or cryogenics perhaps. Skeletons in spacesuits. I've talked about Inherit the Stars before, a cover by Darrell K. Sweet. This cover is by Angus Mackay. Definitely worthy of a full-page spread. Gunfights in space. Space Helmet Reflections. Life in the Future, or Futures. Domed Cities. Paul Lehrer. One of the things I love about Paul Lehrer is he has a controlled palette of a couple of colors with shades in between, and I think they make for spectacular covers. Peter Elson. Robots. Mike Hinge. Vibrant colors and an expressionistic feel to these paintings. Frank Kelly Freas with a very famous depiction of a robot, one that was used for the cover of a Queen album, News of the World, 1977. Post-Apocalypse. I like both of the covers for Mockingbird and Earth Abides. These two here, very similar. They're created by Lou Feck. And this, I would mention, I like the artwork of Paul Lehrer with a controlled palette. This is one of his covers. Robert Tinney's Byte magazine covers. Chris Moore. I have this cover. It comes from The Trillion Year Spree by Brian W. Aldiss, a history of science fiction. Plants, Animals, and Alien Life. This was from the A Science Fiction Specials Series 2. Dean Ellis's cover for Red Tide by D.D. Chapman and Dolores Lehman Tarzan. Very famous cover here from a Fritz Leiber novel, The Mind Spider and Other Stories. Cover art by Walter Rain. Space Cats. There's something about cats in science fiction. Wayne Barlow, unnatural history artist. Perhaps his most famous work is his book, Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. Giant worms. Of course, Dune features prominently here. Dinosaurs of the retro past. Perhaps there'll be some suggestions here for Dinovember 2026. Birds. The eyes have it. Close Encounters. The War of the Worlds. A Single Flower on an Alien Planet. That is a very specific sub-theme. Mushrooms. Forests and trees. Fantasy realms. Here we have some very famous covers. I'm just going to read the caption for this one because I think you'll find it interesting. Jack Gaughan didn't have time to read The Lord of the Rings before illustrating the trilogy for the unauthorized 1965 editions, so he called up author friends Lynn Carter and John Jakes to explain it to him. Despite all that effort, Gaughan then dealt with fan letters correcting him. Gandalf never wore yellow, and one of Sauron's fingers was canonically cut off, so he shouldn't have had all 10. This unauthorized 1965 edition by Ace Books can draw quite a high price. Frank Frazetta. Perhaps one of the most famous, if not the most famous, artists working in fantasy and science fiction. I do love this cover, perhaps my favorite Frazetta cover. Boris Vallejo. Those who love Frazetta seem to also love Vallejo. Rodney Matthews. Wizards. Michael Whalen's Hidden Messages. It talks about his symbolism within the paintings. Richard Hescox. sailing ships in space. Don Metz. Star Wars before Star Wars. These artists perhaps influenced the concept art for Star Wars. This is shown here as cover art for Analog's July 1975 issue, and it featured these hairy creatures as well. This is from 1969. It's Sid Mead with a design for a snow walker. Clyde Caldwell. Cryptozoology and the Paranormal. Ralph McQuarrie, Legend of Boggy Creek. I believe he was also a famous concept artist for Star Wars. America's 1970s Bigfoot obsession. I definitely recognize Richard Corbin's cover for The Best of Frederick Brown. And here we can see magazine covers from Creepy and The Web of Horror. Monsters. This is a very interesting cover. It's from The Best of C.M. Kornbluth, and it's by Gary Veskupik. Ancient astronaut theory. Definitely a pyramid theme here. Creepy and Eerie, the magazines. Zombies. This full-page picture is by Peter Ellison for the 1978 cover of Prime Number by Harry Harrison. Ghosts. And here we have Bruce Pennington from UK. Many famous UK covers here perhaps that North Americans have not seen. Alien Ceremonies. Cloaked Figures. I've read and reviewed this one, Jack of Shadows by Roger Zelazny. And our epilogue. And we have an index if you want to look up your favorite artist, with an end paper and the end sheet here as well. So that is Worlds Beyond Time, Sci-Fi Art of the 1970s by Adam Rowe. It's available now in bookstores and online. I think the beautiful work within goes beyond science fiction. Until next time, take note of the cover art and the cover artist, and keep reading.